Veterans, what would it mean to you to retire at 55 completely on your terms, with $100,000 a year in income that doesn't depend on the stock market, doesn't disappear when taxes go up, and doesn't run out no matter how long you live? Well, that's not a fantasy. And today I'm going to show you the exact numbers it takes to get there at two different starting points, and why veterans are in a better position to hit this target than almost any other group in America. So I'm Dan Farnsworth, retired naval officer and founder of Victory X Financial, and today I'm going to show you something that will change the way you think about retirement accounts entirely. You see, most people are focused on hitting a number, whether it's $1 million or $2 million, but the number in your account is not what you retire on. The income that number generates is what you retire on. And the difference between doing this right and doing it the traditional way is literally the difference between needing $2.6 million and needing just over $1 million to generate the exact same retirement amount. So stay with me, let's get into it. So let me show you something that most financial advisors never put on the same slide. Two paths to the exact same destination, $100,000 a year of actual spendable income in retirement. So on the left, the traditional route, so TSP, IRAs, 401ks. You grow the money, you retire, you start drawing. But here's what that actually costs you. To net $100,000 after taxes in a 24% federal bracket, you have to withdraw $132,000 per year. So that gap, that $32,000, goes straight to the IRS every year for the rest of your life. And because your money is at market risk, most advisors say that you should only draw about 4 to 5% per year to avoid running out. Now at 5% to generate $132,000 in gross withdrawals, you need $2.63 million sitting in that account on the day you retire. Now on the right, you have a properly structured, max-funded Indexed Universal Life Contract, or IUL, and it's designed for tax-free cash accumulation under IRC 7702. Every dollar you take out, tax-free. No bracket, no IRS cut. So to net $100,000, you withdraw $100,000. And because the cash value continues compounding in the background while you draw income, you can safely take around 9% per year without worrying about running out. And at 9%, you only need like $1.11 million to generate that same $100,000 a year. Same destination, same 100K of spendable income, but you need $1.52 million less to get there. Now here's why that gap exists and why it matters so much for the retirement age conversation. See, the traditional retirement math has two enemies built in. The first is taxes. Most Americans are sitting on tax-deferred accounts, meaning they've never paid taxes on that money. So every withdrawal gets taxed. And based on where the national debt is heading, over $38 trillion now, up more than $13 trillion in just the past 5 years alone, most financial professionals agree that tax rates are going up. So the money you're deferring today is likely to be taxed at a higher rate when you pull it out. So you're paying higher taxes on the tree and not the seed. Now the second enemy is market volatility. See, with a traditional account, a bad year at the wrong time can permanently damage your retirement. If you're drawing income during a market crash, let's say, the money you pull out during that crash can never recover. Okay, it can never recover, even if the market bounces back. And that's why advisors cap your draw rate typically at 4 to 5%, because they're protecting you from what we call sequence of returns risk. Now that buffer is real, but it costs you income. Now you remove both of those enemies, you eliminate taxes and you eliminate market risk, and your required account balance drops by more than half. That is not a small optimization, that's the entire game. So now let's talk about what veterans specifically bring to the table, because this is where your advantages start to kick in. Now before we run the scenarios, let's establish the baseline that most veterans overlook. Because for a lot of you watching this, part of your $100,000 retirement income is already being built right now without you doing a thing. See, VA disability compensation is already tax-free, and it's adjusted for inflation every year through COLA increases. And based on consumer price index data over the past 2 decades, we can reasonably project around 2.5% annual increases going forward. Now that matters a lot when you're projecting income out, let's say 10, 15, or 25 years. And here's what that looks like in practice. So if you have an 80% VA disability rating today, you're receiving roughly $28,000 per year in tax-free compensation. Now you project that forward at 2.5% annually, and by age 55, that same benefit is worth approximately $50,000 a year, tax-free, inflation adjusted, and yours regardless of the market. So if you're rated at 100%, your current compensation is around $49,000 a year. So by age 55, projected at the same rate, that becomes approximately $62,000 per year, still tax-free, still guaranteed. Now here's why this changes the entire calculation. So you don't need to build $100,000 per year from scratch. You need to build the gap between what your VA comp will cover and your $100,000 target. And the gap is where the IUL, or the private pension as we call it, does the work. And the smaller the gap, the smaller required in the monthly contribution. So most veterans I talk to have never run this math. They see a $100,000 a year retirement target and they think that they have to build all of it. But when you account for your VA disability income at age 55 and maybe your pension, many veterans are already halfway there before they even contribute a single dollar to a retirement strategy. So that's the foundation. Now let's look at what the 2 scenarios actually look like. So here's our first veteran. He's 30 years old. He has an 80% VA rating, so about $28,000 a year today. He wants to retire at 55 with $100,000 a year in income, and he wants 0 market risk and 0 taxes. So let's work backwards from the target. So by age 55, his VA compensation is projected at approximately $50,000 a year. So the gap that he needs to fill from his IUL is $50,000 a year. And with a properly structured max-funded IUL, one that's designed for maximum cash accumulation, not maximum insurance costs, $800 a month from age 30 to age 55 builds enough cash value to generate approximately $50,000 per year in tax-free income starting at 55. So that's $800 a month for 25 years to close the gap to $100,000 per year of tax-free income at age 55. Now here's what makes the math even more compelling. So when Social Security kicks in at age 62, and in this scenario, Social Security is also largely non-taxable because the other income sources are tax-free, he has a decision to make. He can either increase his annual income above $100,000, or he can reduce his IUL draws and let the cash value continue compounding. The longer he leaves the cash value alone, the larger the death benefit grows for his family. And this is the liquidity advantage that most people miss about a properly structured IUL. So between ages 30 and 55, while the cash value is growing, it's accessible. So if he needs to finance a car or fund a home renovation or handle an emergency or even just make an investment, he can borrow against the cash value at rates that are lower than any bank. He sets the terms. He recaptures the interest. The cash value continues compounding as if none of it left. His money is doing 2 things at the same time. That's what 25 years of uninterrupted tax-free compounding at 7 to 9% does. Starting at 30, the time advantage is enormous, and $800 a month is a number that most veterans with stable income can work with. So now let's look at the harder scenario. So our second veteran is 45 years old, and he's rated at 100% VA disability, so about $49,000 a year today, and approximately $62,000 per year by age 55. Now he also has $100,000 that's sitting in the TSP or an old 401k, and it really isn't doing much. And his goal is the same, $100,000 per year in retirement, and he wants to retire at 55. So that gives him 10 years to build it. Now the gap he needs to fill is $38,000 a year, And here's where we have options, because not every plan has to follow the same path. So option 1, we roll that $100,000 in qualified retirement savings into a market-protected private pension account. Now that account carries an immediate 11% bonus on rollover. It uses a protected indexing strategy with no downside, and by age 55, it's projected to generate approximately $13,000 per year in guaranteed lifetime income. So now the gap drops from $38,000 to $25,000 a year. So he only needs his IUL to produce $25,000 a year. And to hit that target in 10 years, he only has to contribute $1,700 a month into the IUL. Now that's a real number. It's aggressive, but it's achievable for a veteran with stable income sources that are already in place. Now here's option 2 for veterans who want a more flexible path. So if you defer retirement by 7 years, let's say to age 62 instead of 55, by age 62, his VA compensation is projected to be approximately $74,000 a year, so the gap drops to just $26,000. So the $100,000 rolled into the private pension that's left to grow with no additional contributions could easily handle that entire gap on its own. Or if he wants to fund the tax-free IUL route, around $900 a month from age 45 to 62 closes the same gap. The key insight here is that starting at 45 is not starting too late. It changes the levers you pull and the timeline that you target a little bit, but the destination is absolutely still reachable. Truth is, veterans at 45 often have more discretionary income than they even did at age 30. The kids are older, the debt might be lower, the civilian career is producing more, so the constraint isn't the math, it's just having a clear strategy and starting it. Both paths, age 55 with more monthly contribution or age 62 with less, land you at the exact same place. $100,000 per year in tax-free retirement income, market protected, inflation adjusted, and designed to outlast you. Okay, so let's put this all together. So retiring at 55 as a veteran is not a pipe dream. It's just a math problem. And the math is more favorable for you than it is for almost any civilian in America. Your VA disability compensation is already growing toward that target. Your military background gives you more income discipline, and the right financial vehicles, the properly structured IUL and the market-protected private pension, eliminate the two biggest drains on traditional retirement accounts: taxes and market volatility. And when you remove those two drains, you need less money to generate the same income. So you can draw more aggressively without fear, and you can retire earlier than most people even think is possible. The difference between the veteran who retires at 55 with $100,000 a year and the one who's still grinding at 65 wondering if the market holds is usually not luck. And it's not income. It's having a strategy specifically designed for the advantages they already have. So if you want to see what your numbers look like based on your age, your VA rating, your existing savings, your timeline, just use the link on the screen. I'll put it down in the description. There's no cost, there's no pressure, there's no obligation. So we'll map it out. We'll run the real numbers, and you'll walk out with a clear plan. Look, you put in the work to earn these benefits. Let's make sure they actually pay off. I'm Dan Farnsworth with Victory X Financial. Stay sharp, stay ready, and I'll see you in the next video.